Well, good evening everybody, and welcome to the public forum of Council, which is being held today on Tuesday the 23rd of January 2024. First of all, we'll acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we live, work and play, pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging, and recognise their continued connection to these lands and waterways. We acknowledge our shared responsibility to care for and protect our place and people. So again, welcome, and I will now declare the public forum open. And we're holding that public forum this evening, quick ahead of myself, to hear from community members who have registered to speak on items before the council meeting tonight. So I would ask the gallery to respect and listen to those people who are speaking with silence and respect. I would also like to remind the speakers, indeed everyone here, that this meeting is being webcast. That means your image and what you say is being recorded. So please be mindful of what you do say and avoid making statements that may defame or offend anybody. And reminder, Council is not responsible for your action. Make sure your mobile phones are off and silent, and to please remain seated during the duration. First of all, I will now ask if any of the staff have any conflicts of interest to declare. There are none. And to the speakers, I will just, who have registered to speak, remember your presentation is being live streamed and recorded, and you will have 3 minutes. And we have a little warning buzzer that goes at 2 minutes 30, which gives you 30 seconds to wind up. With 5 speakers tonight, I'll be reasonably tough, but you could probably expect you've got another 5 or 10 seconds if you're just trying to finish off. But I would ask you to respect that. So we'll move on, and we first speaker up, I guess that's in order along here, is Van. Good to see you, Van Davies. So item 2.2 you're speaking on. Welcome.
Threefold. Firstly, I'd like to suggest that you delete the word Darkinjung from the proposed acknowledgement. Secondly, that the Council initiate discussions between the New South Wales Government and the Commonwealth Government with a view to bringing into alignment with the High Court decision on Mabo, the New South Wales Government's legislation that underpins land councils in New South Wales. And thirdly, that the Aboriginal Advisory Committee be advised that this action is being taken because at this point you cannot determine in their favour because until the 2 pieces of legislation are brought into alignment. I make 3 points in 3 minutes. Firstly, the New South Wales land councils are generated by legislation made in New South Wales in the 1980s. The 1980s were known, now they're known, for a time when terra nullius permeated all of the legal isms associated with land ownership in this country. And the land council legislation was, as I say, pre-Mabo, pre-High Court decision, and pre-native title Commonwealth legislation. As a consequence, the current Land Council on the Central Coast, the Darkinjung Land Council, reflects that sort of, those sorts of themes. In the 1990s, 10 years later, the Commonwealth, following the Mabo decision, the High Court determination, passed legislation that provided for the first time for traditional ownerships to be acknowledged in certain ways and to be identified in certain ways and to have certain rights. Those principles, now part of the Commonwealth legislation, are not reflected in the New South Wales legislation. My submission to you is that they should be, that the New South Wales legislation should reflect the decisions of the High Court, and that to do that, you need to initiate action. At the moment, in your council, you have two groups of people, probably a third, which is a lot more people that are bemused, the people organised around the 1980s New South Wales legislation, supporting with great vigour, and those supporting the native title organised around the Commonwealth legislation following the High Court decision. You have an inbuilt conflict in your council area which you need to move on to resolve.
Thank you. Thank you. And the second speaker is Shad Tyler, also speaking on 2.2. Thank you.
Yep. Hello, everybody. My name's Shad Tyler. I'm a bloodline custodian of the Central Coast. I'm a Guringai man, and I'm from the Wangini Nation, which is a saltwater nation, goes all the way through the coast. Basically, I'm speaking against Darkinjung being named on the Welcome to Country. Now, I don't have a problem with Darkinjung. They're a land council. They do a lot of good things in the community. There's a lot of good people there. They work with a lot of great people, do lots of things. I just find it very confusing. How do I explain to my kids this welcome? People know of Guringai, they know of Wangini. I won't keep going on about it. Yeah. Now, Darkinjung Land Council was formed in 1983. I remember it. I remember walking down to the driveway and getting the Central Coast Express, and I actually seen an article about some young kids from Taree being taken up to Summersby, and they'd just formed. So, on that note, Summersby, Girrakul, they all used to have name plaques talking about Guringai, and unfortunately they've all disappeared. They've gone. It's sad. I'd like to see that sort of fixed up for later. But look, honestly, I really believe we can all work together. We need inclusion, not division. If there's some way we can come to sort of some amicable agreement, whether we don't use that name or we use our name or we just don't have the name. We really have to work together. We really do. Yeah, I really thank you for your time, and I hope everyone can sort of reflect on that and understand and feel something in your heart. This is more of a personal thing for me. I've got no interest in politics or fighting or anything. So I'll leave that with you to think about. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Shad, for coming along. It's very good thoughts. We'll move on to Vicky Parry, who's also speaking on item 2.2. Vicky, welcome.
Well, good evening, and this is probably the first time I've ever been in the council chambers, so thank you for having me along. My name is Vicky Parry. I'm the Executive Director of Barang Regional Alliance and a member of the Darkinjung Aboriginal community. My family and I have lived here for more than 60 years. And as Barang Regional Alliance on the Central Coast Aboriginal community, representative voice to government, we work in partnership with government and other key stakeholders to reform the ways that Indigenous policies and programs are designed and delivered to our community. We do this using an Aboriginal-led government-enabled approach to partnering in both Commonwealth and state governments to drive reforms. And the reforms that we look for are cultural retention, building relationships, empowering our people, supporting our people and business, developing our future leaders. The New South Wales Central Coast boasts one of the fastest growing Aboriginal populations in Australia, with a conservatively estimated population around 17,000. We are a rapidly growing and culturally diverse region with mature leadership. The Central Coast comprises 6.1% of the total Aboriginal population in New South Wales, making us one of the largest LGAs in New South Wales per capita. Over 54% of our total Aboriginal population is aged under 24 years of age. We have seen a 36% increase in our Aboriginal population since the 2016 census. And we comprise almost 5% of the total population of the Central Coast local government area. I speak for and to inform stakeholders about misinformation and to explain the role, function and authority of Darkinjung Local Aboriginal Land Council, specifically in relation to matters of Aboriginal culture. I feel this explanation is necessary due to the confusion and uncertainty our community perceive is prevalent in the wider community's knowledge regarding such matters. And because we continue to find Darkinjung's role regarding matters surrounding Aboriginal cultural and heritage misrepresented. Unfortunately, individuals are increasingly asserting that they are genuine descendants of the original Aboriginal inhabitants of the area around native title determination, without native title determination, nor general accepted evidence. For the purpose of my statement, it is important to outline the two legal processes which exist to recognise one cultural authority. The New South Wales Aboriginal Land Right Act, 1983, New South Wales, the Aboriginal Land Right Act and the Native Title Act.
Vicky, I will ask you to finish up, please. Thank you.
Okay.
So, thank you. To the audience, please, I did ask at the beginning if you could be respectful to let everybody speak. So I would ask you again, please allow people to speak and to finish. So, you know, you interrupted her just on the bell, so she can have 10 seconds more. I said that at the beginning.
So at present, there are no determinations of native title for any group within the Central Coast local government area. We, the broader Aboriginal community, believe that the Darkinjung people are traditional custodians of these lands, and so the Land Council and wider Aboriginal community strongly advocates for the inclusion and recognition of this as Darkinjung country in the Council's acknowledged...
Thank you, Vicky. No, please. That's your time up, thank you. Item 2.3, we have Jane Hendy speaking.
Not because I believe that any of the chosen parcels of land are unworthy of becoming community land, but because I believe you have omitted the most important. The reserve known as lots 21 to 23, Memorial Avenue, Blackwall, is a Cinderella reserve. It doesn't have a spectacular view of the ocean like the Paul Lander Reserve, nor is it in the heart of Woy Woy like Austin Butler. No, this reserve's location is less desirable. On one side, its neighbour is an unremarkable block of units, and on the other side is a paddock waiting to become 12 dwellings. Its frontage, which gives on to an unnamed laneway, serves as a car park, thanks to council positioning sandstone blocks a vehicle's length away from the boundary. In 2021, when this reserve was one of a group of council properties intended to be sold off, many local residents held rallies and signed petitions to save it. Since then, however, council has left it in limbo by refusing to maintain it. Weeds and tree-strangling creepers run riot. And yet, this reserve is much loved by those of us lucky enough to live nearby. Its trees, rare remnant of Umina sandplain woodland, grow tall and handsome. Up in the canopy, a family of microbats sleep the days away. In the background looms the mysterious presence of Blackwall Mountain. Underneath the weeds lies treasure. The local Indigenous people use this space as a gathering place and a place to feast on shellfish. The evidence is all over the reserve, which is a registered midden. While council sold off all the other lots on the north side of the laneway, lots 21 to 23 remained in its possession. Being the lowest point in Blackwall, this land was retained as flood mitigation. During heavy rain, the cars parked along its boundary get bogged down, waterlogged, and occasionally written off. Building units on this reserve, even if that were possible, would be disastrous for the surrounding houses. The administrator's avowed aim is to sell it to a developer, which he is able to do because it is classified as operational land. In order to stop this happening, I would ask that this reserve be included in the group of properties whose classification is to be changed to community land. Thank you.
And our final speaker tonight, speaking on item 2.3, is Joy Cooper. Welcome, Joy.
I'm humbled to have the traditional custodians in the audience listening. This is certainly a good start for 2024, Mr. Farmer. Congratulations on your leadership with this important agenda item. Bet you never thought I'd say that. I also congratulate Dr. Howe in her absence and Mr. Barrett. Let's hope it's a start to a good year for the long-suffering residents of the Central Coast. Maybe you've made a New Year's resolution to consider the environment and the voice of the residents. I certainly hope so. I'm also delighted to finally be able to speak in favour of one of the council agenda items while we're under administration. That certainly has taken a while.
Noted.
It's nice to see Mr. Barrett is finally working on items which will give some measure of protection to our environmental and community use lands. I realise Mr. Barrett was working on the recategorisation of so many of these community sites and reclassification of land from community to operational. Let's hope that stops. I'm concerned, however, with Mr. Barrett's current title of Commercial Property Manager when this land is community. Maybe Mr. Barrett needs a longer position title to include the words community as well as, or instead of, commercial. Would you please consider giving Mr. Barrett that late Christmas present, Mr. Farmer? Congratulations on listening to the community on this classification issue of land. It certainly has been a long and tiresome job to have the staff listen to the community. While I praise you for this work, and it is good, it isn't great. There are still far too many parks and reserves across all suburbs which need this community classification. For too long now, councillors use this classification of community or operational to manipulate the legislation for council's convenience. And it's a pushback to the residents that understand the manipulation of the legislation by council. Many residents have discovered far too late this manipulation and have suffered loss of what they have thought was a reserve in their street or neighbourhood that they thought was safe from sale or development. Springfield former quarry is one of those sites, and I realise it's been mentioned in this report. Do the right thing and classify that as community land. It has been in council ownership since 1997. My children were babies, my daughter's getting married, that's how long it's been. And it was purchased with Coastal Open Space Systems funds, which was a levy on our council rates to purchase environmental land for many years. While I mention this site as an example, there are so many other parks and reserves which also need community classification. I'm nearly there. You see, it doesn't hurt too much nor cost much for these good things to happen. Let's move on from good to great or even fantastic. So moving forward, Mr. Hart and Farmer, let all those other sites also classified as community land, and maybe I'll even speak in favour of that decision.
Thank you, Joy. Your comments were noted. It's nice to have a positive one. Now, I will now declare the public quorum closed, and you are invited to watch the webcast on the council meeting, which will commence at 6:30, or of course you can stay here, and we will resume again in just under 10 minutes' time. So thank you for your attendance for this. acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we live, work and play, pay our respect to elders past, present and emerging, and recognise their continued connection to these lands and waterways. We acknowledge our shared responsibility to care for and protect our place and people. I will now declare the meeting open. Just again remind you that the meeting is being webcast and you should avoid making statements that might defame or offend. So a very warm welcome to everybody who's here tonight and those who are watching at home tonight. I hope everybody's been able to take a big break, an extended break, and spend time with family and friends over the holiday period. Last week we had a major milestone, which was the Gosford Regional Library construction beginning, and it officially has started at the Donaldson Street site. Now, the new library is on track for opening in early 2025 and will be the first of its kind for the Central Coast, offering an iconic public building in the heart of Gosford CBD and creating a space where the community can connect, learn, create and collaborate. The project is being jointly funded with $7 million from the Australian Government's Community Development Grant Program and Council's collection of developer contributions, special levies formerly collected by the Gosford City Council and council funds that have been restricted to this particular project. Australia Day activities, we've got heaps going on over the Australia Day long weekend for the community to enjoy. So bring along a picnic rug and enjoy live music on the waterfront to celebrate Australia Day at Gosford Leagues Club Park on Friday the 26th from 4 to 9 p.m. We have a great evening planned at this family-friendly alcohol-free event with live entertainment, food stalls, plenty of kids' activities, including a circus workshop and fireworks display over Brisbane Water to finish off the night. Other council events being delivered over the Australia Day period include the return of the popular Australia Day Eve event at Canton Beach, Toukley, starting at 4 p.m. on Thursday the 25th, with live entertainment, food stalls, amusements, activities, and concluding again with a fireworks display at 9 p.m. And you can also celebrate Australia Day on the waterfront at Memorial Park, the entrance, with some local cuisine, engaging activities, and entertainment for all ages. And again, this event will kick off at 11 a.m. on Friday the 26th and finish at 4 p.m. So plenty to do over the Australia Day period with a lot of celebration. The summer school holiday program is in full swing and it isn't over yet. If you're looking for things to do or ways to entertain the kids, head to our What's On webpage and register for one of the events. The Summer Safety Campaign, again we're running the Summer Safety Campaign, which is asking the community to be informed, be prepared and be safe. It is important to be vigilant about safety, particularly when visiting beaches, pools and the natural areas. It's advised to take precaution and allow extra travel time while holidaying. Ensure you are prepared in the case of emergency. Again, head to the Coast Summer Safety page on Council's website for resources and more information. And again, we haven't stopped our community engagement. So we have some key projects currently on exhibition and we're hoping to seek community feedback on, including the draft Central Coast Nighttime Economy Discussion Paper, the draft Central Coast Airport Master Plan and the Fegans Bay Waterfront Master Plan. So head to yourvoiceourcoast.com and have your say. So 2024 is now upon us. And once again, Council has a big year ahead of us, delivering core services, major community events and festivals, infrastructure works, and much more for the Central Coast community. Markedly though, 2024 is the year we will welcome back a democratically elected governing body to Central Coast Council. Excellent. It's been an enormous 3 years under administration, and I'd like to thank the council staff for continuing to work tirelessly to get the organisation into a position where councillors, as representatives of the community, can be handed back the keys. Both council and the community have weathered some significant challenges during this time, and I'm confident in council's commitment to continue improving its overall performance to enhance the service to you, the Central Coast community, in 2024. Now we'll move on to item 1.1, disclosures of interest. Just check with the executive. I don't believe there are any conflicts. No. So we will now move to resolve the recommendation that is displayed on the screen. Item 1.2, which is confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting. I can confirm, of course, because I was present, that the minutes are full and accurate, and as such, I will now resolve to adopt the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on the 12th of December as shown on the screen. Item 1.3, which is notice of intention to deal with matters in confidential session. There are no matters to discuss in confidential session tonight, so we will resolve to adopt the resolution to that effect as shown on the screen. Now we'll move to the substantive, and the first item on the agenda is item 2.1, and I'll ask Ms. Rakamallara, the Director of Corporate Services, to talk to the investment report.
Thank you, Mr. Administrator. Most of our avid community members would be aware that in most months we table a monthly financial report over and above the legislated quarterly budget reviews. It is noted that due to the impact of the business closure during December 2023, the monthly finance report for December 2023 will be submitted at the next council meeting in February. Today we do have in front of us the investment report. At the end of December, Council held just over $719 million in cash and investments. One of the key movements during the months was the settlement of the $100 million emergency loan, reducing the total amount held in cash and cash equivalents. The loan payment was made with funds that had been internally restricted for this purpose over a period of time since November 2022. And Council has now commenced setting aside funds to enable the extinguishment of the remaining emergency loan in November 2025. We will restrict $1.4 million each month for this purpose. In regards to our current unrestricted cash, we hold an adequate level of unrestricted cash at around $61 million, which is sufficient for the maintenance of service provision and to respond to any unforeseen changing circumstances. And again, at the February Council meeting, we will return to our regular schedule of monthly financial reporting.
Thank you, Mr. Rakamallara. It's fantastic to see that we actually did repay the $100 million, so that's gone, and that we've started repaying the original $50 million that we actually drew down back in December 2020. So I think that is fabulous news for the community, and of course that does free up quite a lot of cash through the fact that we have budgeted for over the next 7 odd years for interest and principal to repay those loans or those debts, but we will now have that money to actually put into services as opposed to going into debt repayment. So that's very good news. Also, it's good to see that we maintain our strong cash position to cover, as Ms. Rakamallara said, for any East Coast lows or anything else that might come through and require some immediate cash to be able to recover from that. So with that, I'm very happy to recommend and pass the resolutions that are shown on the screen. So we now move to item just lost my place here briefly. Yeah, 2.2, which is changes to the acknowledgement of country and minutes of the Aboriginal Advisory Committee meeting held on the 13th of December. I'm going to ask Ms. Smith to introduce this item. Mel.
Thank you, Mr. Administrator. Council adopted the First Nations Accord at the Ordinary Council meeting in December 2022. One of the actions was to establish an Aboriginal Advisory Committee and to task the committee to review Council's acknowledgement of country. Appointment to the Aboriginal Advisory Committee was done via public expression of interest, which was conducted in early 2023. In response to this process, 17 applications were received and a rigorous assessment process undertaken, including assessments from 3 senior external First Nations leaders. From this process, 8 members were endorsed by Council in July 2023 to serve on this committee. The appointed members represent significant experience and interests across a broad sector of our local Aboriginal community with extensive experience in critical service provision such as health, education, housing, arts, culture and sport. The Aboriginal Advisory Committee first met in early October 2023 and had an extraordinary meeting later in October 2023 to discuss the community's strategic plan development process. The third Aboriginal Advisory Committee meeting was held on the 13th of December 2023. At that meeting, the committee discussed and recommended an amended acknowledgement of country to be formally adopted by Council. The recommendations align Council with the generally accepted practice within the Central Coast community to acknowledge Darkinjung in some way. Some examples include Central Coast Local Health District, University of Newcastle, Barang Regional Alliance, Mingaletta Aboriginal Corporation, Yerin Eleanor Duncan Aboriginal Health Services, Regional Development Australia, New South Wales Department of Education, Transport for New South Wales Department of Communities and Justice, and New South Wales Department of Education. Whilst there are conflicting views within the local community regarding recognition of traditional ownership of local lands, Council does not play a role in determining any such claims and accept that there are established mechanisms at a state and federal level to resolve any such issues. Should any future claim for recognition of traditional ownership of the Central Coast be successful, or an amended position be proposed by the Aboriginal Advisory Committee, Council would consider amending the acknowledgement accordingly. Thank you, Mr Administrator.
Thank you, Ms Smith. I think that was a pretty good summary of the process it's been through, and as the Director has outlined, the Aboriginal Advisory Committee was established as an independent body to advise Council on matters related to First Nations people on the Central Coast. I would like to reiterate that the formation of this committee was an open, transparent, inclusive and independent expression of interest process which was reported to Council prior to the committee's establishment and adoption. I do also understand that there are differing views in the community about the formal advice of the committee. Central Coast Council did adopt its First Nations Accord in December 2022, which at point 5.1 states that we commit to strengthening engagement and working in genuine partnership with First Nations leaders through the establishment of a broad-based Aboriginal Advisory Committee. Council remains committed to doing so, and with that I resolve to adopt the resolutions as shown on the screen. We will now move to item 2.3, the bulk reclassification of operational land to community land conservation. And Shannon Tuckington is going to speak. Where is she? Here, right there. Shannon. Please.
Thank you, Mr Administrator.
Speak loudly into the mic. Just go.
Land owned by council must be classified as either operational or community land. Operational land is used to meet council's business needs such as work depots and community land.
Could you please be quiet? What do you want to do? Do you want to pause it? I am calling for order. So please be quiet. If it's not going to quieten down, I am going to adjourn the meeting. I'm going to ask that the public gallery be cleared so that order to be restored. Thank you. And we will resume in 10 minutes' time. Okay, at 6:55, we will now resume the meeting. And again, I would just kindly ask the audience to remain silent or keep your comments more to yourself to allow those particularly listening on the internet and for those people in the audience who do want to listen to officers explain what the paper's about and so on. It would be nice to be able to complete the meeting with respect to all. So with that, we will go back to item 2.3, which is the bulk reclassification of operational land, and I will ask Shannon to start again.
Thank you, Mr Administrator. Land owned by council must be classified as either operational or community land. Operational land is used to meet council business needs such as work depots, and community land is used for public purposes such as parks, reserves and sports fields. Community land is required to be used and managed in accordance with a plan of management which is prepared by council. Council resolved to commence the process to reclassify land in August of 2023. Public notification of the proposal was undertaken from the 7th of September to the 6th of October. During the notification period, Council received 5 online submissions, although only 2 submissions included comments and 1 submission by email. Following review of the community feedback, staff have recommended that 12 sites be reclassified, which includes 79 of the 80 lots included in the public notification. These sites include community facilities, open spaces and natural areas. The remaining site, St Barnabas Church at Yarramalong, has been removed from the reclassification process. Feedback received during the notification period outlined the need for an easement to be created for access and site boundaries confirmed to ensure all of the church land is included in the reclassification process. To allow for further investigation and the creation of an easement, the site is required to remain operational land and therefore is no longer included in the proposal.
Thank you, and don't have a lot more to add to that other than it is good to see some land being locked up, but just a reminder that there is very good reason why land is operational and is classified as such. And it is not all about trying to lock land up where you can't use it or do anything with it forever. Again, for people to get money to invest on land that is owned by council, it is necessary that it is operational, to be able to charge the longer leases and to be able to do those sorts of things. So it's quite important overall for budgetary purposes and for community groups that want to have long leases and third parties that want long leases of assets on some of that land. It's quite important that the land is actually able to be classified as operational. But other land, it's very important that it does get locked up and it's protected sort of in perpetuity. So with that, I'm very happy to endorse the recommendations that have been put forward by staff and move those as a decision of council. We'll move to item 2.4, which is the council and state road projects, including the natural disaster funding. And I know, Mr. Bolgoff, you've got a presentation there to show that we're spending quite a lot of money on roads.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Administrator. We'll just wait for the presentation to come up. Just go to the next slide, please. I thought I'd start with the scale of our network. So if you actually put our road network end to end, it would extend from essentially here to Cairns. That's the 2,200 kilometres of road network. We also have an extensive drainage network to be responsible for, and that's about 1,100 kilometres. So if you combine those assets together, it's $3.4 billion worth of replacement cost for those assets. Wanted to point out also that it's not just grant funding. Council does have a significant amount of investment in our roads and related infrastructure. So just in our capital works program, we do invest around that $65 million, which is predominantly renewal. You see in the photographs up on the slides there, a bit of the before and after. So the renewal actually replaces the asset. So on the left is the before, and on the right is the after. We also invest in maintenance and operation. So that's about $35 million. So that's your pothole repairs and your drainage work and your clearing of the pipes and so forth. And just the slide, the bottom left, you've got the a pothole repair, and the right was a heavy patch. And now we can move on, so thank you. Just the scale of the investment from the Australian government, you've got it on the top right. I won't go through all of those, but over the last couple of years, we've been lucky enough to secure a fair bit of money from the Australian government. And in the Central Coast Road package, we have completed 25 out of the 29 projects, and you can see that's a $86.5 million investment. We've also got the $40 million roads package, which is about to be announced and kick off very, very shortly. And there is a number of other packages you can see that's going down the page there that is invested into the road network. Just go to the next one. Back in 2022, where we had the severe weather impacts with the amount of rain, we ended up having about 103 slip sites across the local government area. So a lot of work has to be done in relation to the planning and design of that, and the estimated works to bring that up to pre-damage, the remediation work is about $98 million. Now, we have secured from December last year, $52 million of those funds, and a lot of that work is underway in relation to certainly a lot of the design work and some of the physical work as well. I just wanted to point out here, this is predominantly funded by the Australian government and administered by the New South Wales government through Transport for New South Wales. About $48 million of that is through the Australian government and $4 million is through the New South Wales government. Next slide, please. Just in relation to the New South Wales government, we still get a fair few funds in relation to that. Now, the regional emergency repair work is our ability to invest that money in some operational work. So it's not the renewal type, and it's more the reactive type work, and we've been able to split that in relation to the road pavement itself, as well as some of the drainage work to stop the water getting underneath the pavement and impacting on our roads. So, that's another significant investment of around $10 million. And some other investments of such as the New South Wales Get Active program, which is around improving our cycleways and a little bit in relation to some safety there. So, with all of that happening, with our own money, on top of council's investment, we've been able to secure over $235 million in the last couple of years from both the state and federal governments. And certainly on behalf of council, thank the governments for that contribution, because we wouldn't be able to do as much as we're actually doing without that sort of investment. And it's a central part of our strategy that we do get these grant funding to be able to deliver to the community. Just lastly, I'd just like to point out, we do try and communicate what we're doing. So, we do have media releases. There's a social media update on a weekly basis. Information goes out to the ratepayers via our newsletter. And in the top right, I know it's not that clear, but it's our capital works map. So we put all of our capital works, and you can access that via our website. And this financial year, we've had over 10,000 hits just on that particular map. And the lower map is our natural disaster mapping, which is also on our website. So we are demonstrating to what we're doing to the community via these mechanisms. Mr. Administrator, thank you.
Thank you, Boris. It's pretty impressive, isn't it, actually, the amount of money that is actually being spent on roads, drainage and associated activities. I think moving forward, we're hoping to be in the order of around about $150 million on average, about the sort of money which is a combination of ratepayers' funds and also state government and federal government monies going in. And it really is a very good example of the three tiers of government actually working together to maximise A, the amount of money, and B, obviously trying to get as much done to repair our road network as we can. The road network, for a range of reasons, has been struggling to keep up with it. Obviously, the weather's contributed hugely to the problems, but also obviously increased population, increased, if you like, social desire to have more footpaths and curb and gutter and so on present, and also the increase in heavy vehicle traffic all work against us with the road network. So to actually be getting this money and actually getting it to good use is actually one of the highest priorities of this council at this point in time. And I certainly hope a future council will continue to prioritise the funding into the roading program. But with that, happy to pass the recommendation that notes the funding that's available, as shown on the screen. And we'll move to item 2.5, which again we're going to ask Shannon to introduce about species management plans.
Thank you, Mr. Administrator. The introduction of the New South Wales Biodiversity Conservation Act 2016 has increased the level of protection of threatened species by requiring development proponents to actively demonstrate that they have taken reasonable steps to avoid and minimise impacts on biodiversity, in particular threatened species. This includes planning proposals, development applications, and activities on council-owned and managed land. Species management plans allow for an understanding of specific ecology of threatened species that regularly occur on development sites and provide a framework by which it will be managed on the Central Coast. They provide a consistent assessment approach, rigour to decisions by council assessment officers, and an understanding prior to purchasing property or during the DA assessment process of the likely constraints that a particular threatened species creates. 2 species management plans have been prepared, one for scrub turpentine, which is listed as critically endangered under the Biodiversity Conservation Act, and broad-footed myotis, which is a microbat, which is found in creeks, dams and estuaries across the Central Coast. The SMPs for both species include a review of the relevant species biology and ecology, procedure for assessing impacts, and a series of recovery actions. The SMPs were prepared in consultation with species experts through the New South Wales Royal Botanic Gardens, Save Our Species team at the New South Wales Department of Planning, Housing and Infrastructure, New South Wales Government Forest Science Centre, council staff and representatives of the Urban Development Institute of Australia to discuss the SMP approach, mitigation measures and recovery actions. Thank you, Mr. Administrator.
Thank you, Shannon. These are the first of many, I no doubt, and I guess one point of view might be is that they're more of an encumbrance on people, but at the same time, a pathway when you have a species management plan in place for developers and other people to follow to make sure that the species is protected into the future. So I think it's a very good thing that we've started on this, and there's no doubt a lot more to go. So with that, I'm happy to move the recommendations as shown on the screen. And we'll come now to the last item, which is item 2.6, the Community Support Grant Program. And I have to say, just looking at the totals, for the past 2 years, I've been, I guess, complaining to staff that we never really spend the amount of money there. Well, at this point in time, I think we're running ahead of our budget, which is great to see because the money's getting out into the community. And you can see on the screen there are a number of the, when it's there, you can see a number of the recipients of the screen. Is pretty varied, from surf lifesaving clubs to community college, your minor community group, couple of rugby clubs, and so on. So good money going into good things. Happy to be doing it. So with that, I will resolve to pass the resolutions as shown on the screen. And with that, that will bring us to the end of the meeting tonight, and we will close the meeting at 7:10 p.m. Thank you.